This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report Show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
We have a lot more Lions draft talk coming your way today. We have a Mel Kiper mock draft. We'll talk about what the Lions did in that draft. We have some not trade rumors, but trade value gauges on our number 7 pick by Chris Burke that we'll get into as well. And then an interesting question about the GMs in this town. It's your Fan Report.
So as we are quite literally hitting the record button on this episode, news just breaks that Anthony Mantha, in his first game with the Washington Capitals, scores a goal. Guy was very hot and cold at the wings, often injured, and really was a little bit disappointing in a lot of ways, which was one of the reasons that Stevie Y was willing to, move on from him. And he goes and scores a goal in his first game. Just makes it sting a little bit. Just a little bit. But we'll get more into...
But we got a nice haul for him anyways.
We did, but we'll get more into that in the GM conversation towards the back end of the show. But so for this episode, I wanted to start things off with... Let's start with Mel Kiper's mock draft. It dropped today, I believe. I believe it's his mock draft 4.0. I think so. Sounds about right. Has the Lions getting somebody that we've talked quite a bit about here on this pod, on the show in the first round, and then a name in the second round that brings up some questions. But I did want to start off by saying, Andrew, happy birthday to you, or should I say belated birthday?
I thank you, sir.
You celebrated your special day yesterday, so everybody out there, wish Andrew a happy birthday.
Dude, the amount of phone calls that came in while I was working, I got so little done yesterday because I couldn't get off the phone.
Oh, dude, that's like how anybody, it's your birthday, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook all day. Mine always has.
You know what scares me too? Mm-hmm. My cousin called me and he asked me how old I am now, and I had to think about it. That means I'm too old.
I'm not going to lie to you. There's been several moments this year where I, honest to God, slightly forgot my age. I'm either this or that. And, I'm either 27 or 28. I can't remember what year was I born in. I couldn't remember. So it is what it is. I guess that's just a part of getting older.
Yeah, it's not. Now I'm just going with another year closer to 30. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. That's not one I'm looking forward to. But there is something you can look forward to, and that's this weekend. We're gonna, enjoy a night, couple glasses of scotch, a good scotch. I like how I showed you that scotch, and you were like, "Oh my God, it's so good! I've had it," and then you immediately rush to the store and go buy it.
That's because I've had it and know how good it is.
Was it something you had been looking for? And to give you to answer the question, it's Glenfiddich single malt scotch that is aged in IPA barrels. Mm-hmm. So, and Andrew and I both are big IPA fans and also big whiskey fans. So marrying the two just sounded amazing to me. And Andrew, you say it's extremely good. So
yes. So basically, the last Thanksgiving we had, as a family, was in November 2019, and my uncle had brought that, and I'd never seen it before. I'm like, wait a minute, a Scotch aged in IPA barrels? I mean, I already like Glenfiddich. I was gonna have it anyways, but this is a bonus. And so I tried it, and I was like, oh damn, this is incredible Scotch. Oh my God, and from that next day, I started looking. I started searching online, where can I get a bottle of this? I couldn't find it anywhere. There were Meyer had on the website. I remember they had it out of stock, and then I just never came across it again. I would search periodically, oh yeah, let's see if I can find that Glenfiddich. Anytime I want to get more liquor, never was able to find it. And then when you sent me that snap, I'm like, wait, where is it? Because by then it'd been about a year since I had last looked for it too. So
okay, all right, so it'd been a while, and
I spent a lot of late 2019, a lot of early 2020 looking for it. And
okay, so I didn't spend too much time staring at the bottle or reading things, but how long was it aged for? Is it a 10-year, 12-year, 15-year?
It's a great question that I don't have an exact answer to.
Okay, because I was curious about that.
I can tell you in a few minutes.
All right. But that's something we'll have to enjoy this weekend in celebration of your birthday, amongst probably some, I'm assuming we'll be grilling. I don't know. But we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. So, but let's go ahead and jump into this Mel Kiper mock draft. So this, like I said, I think this is his 4.0. This has projected trades in it. 1, 2, and 3 pretty much go as what we've seen as of the past week, with the Jags taking Trevor Lawrence, Jets taking Zach Wilson, and the Niners grabbing Mac Jones, which we talked about it last week that the Niners are leaning Mac Jones as reported by Adam Schefter. I'm starting to actually question if that's the case, though, and the reason I say that is because I saw a report that came out that said that the Niners chose to go to Mac Jones's pro day over Justin Fields' pro day, which kind of, I'm assuming, was the big reasoning behind people saying, oh, they're looking at Mac Jones, because, I mean, that's a big tell-all right there. But if you really look deeper into it, this was Mac Jones' second and final pro day. They missed his first one, and this was Justin Fields' first pro day, and he was going to have another one that the 49ers are going to be attending. So that kind of made me say, okay, maybe they're not as into Mac Jones and are, leaning Mac Jones over Justin Fields as much as we thought. So that kind of tempered that a little bit, but this mock draft does still have the Niners taking Mac Jones, the quarterback from Alabama. Number 4 has the Dolphins moving up to grab the number 4 pick from the Dolphins, but they don't take a QB. They end up instead taking, obviously because they have Tua Tagovailoa, Mel Kiper has them taking Kyle Pitts, the tight end from Florida, guy that we've really liked and talked extensively about on this show that we'd like to see the Lions take at number 7. I'm not even going to call him a tight end. Kyle Pitts, the pass catcher from Florida. Number 5, Bengals taking, obviously, Penei Sewell, who I think is a must for the Bengals. Number 6, which was the Falcons in the trade with Miami, they grabbed quarterback Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. So that brings the Lions up to number 7, with names like Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase, Justin Fields, Jalen Waddle. You can even throw out Rashawn Slater, Patrick Surtain. There's names out there, J.C. Horn. There's names out there for the Lions to take at this spot at number 7. Before we get to the actual pick that Mel Kiper has projected, Andrew, who would you like to see the Lions take here at number 7?
I've been fielding a lot of these questions from my dad over the last few days. He just gives me different scenarios. All right, now who do you take? All right, now who do you take? Basically, he's just trying to get me to say, okay, I take Justin Fields. Okay. You just try to spin it until I say that. But no, I've already said on this pod that that Jamar Chase is my favorite receiver in this class. That includes tight ends. And if I had the choice in him and Kyle Pitts, I go him, then Kyle Pitts, and then it's everybody else. So judging he's on the board, I would lean taking Jamar Chase here. Now, there is the other option of, because I do really like Micah Parsons as well. You could consider Micah Parsons at 7. I think it might be a little too early. If you have a trade where if there's a team that's looking to grab Justin Fields because he's still on the board, if there's a team looking to grab Justin Fields and you can just trade back like 3, 4, 5 spots, I might do that and then just land Micah Parsons and some extra draft capital.
See, this is where I would go and call the Denver Broncos and New England Patriots in particular and say, hey, even the Washington football team, and say, hey, I know you want to trade up for a quarterback. What can you offer me here at number 7? Justin Fields is still on the board. And that's what the Lions kind of got to do there. Whether or not any of these teams would actually be interested in Justin Fields is a different story. I do think their options would be limited in that regard. But I do think that there could be some, bites on the line, so to speak. But go ahead and continue.
But to be honest, my price would be high because I'll be perfectly happy staying put and grabbing Jamar Chase. So they'd have to impress me with an offer, but if an offer comes across I like, I'll move back. I'll hope Micah Parsons drops to me. Right now, I'll say Jamar Chase is 7, assuming there's no trade.
So I agree with you. Jamar Chase probably would be my pick here unless I got a king's ransom for that number 7 pick because, again, I am happy taking Jamar Chase at this spot. Lions need receivers. We lost our top 2 receivers in the offseason. So that tells you the Lions are in desperate need of receivers. Yes, they grabbed Tyrell Williams and Rashad Perriman, but Rashad Perriman doesn't exactly excite me. Tyrell Williams is a nice piece, but he's not a number one, and he's a borderline number two in all reality. So I need somebody that can be a true number one right now and also in the future. And that's who Mel Kiper has the Lions taking at number 7 as well, and that's Ja'Marr Chase, wide receiver from LSU, drawing comparisons to, the names like Michael Thomas. He is the number one wide receiver prospect in this draft, and the Lions nailing him there at number 7 would, honestly, it would and it should excite a lot of fans in this town. So just to give you an idea of what goes after, immediately following, Panthers taking Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama at number 8, to go alongside DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And my God, is that wide receiver trio just nasty at that point. If Sam Darnold doesn't succeed at that point, he's a bust. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give him a pass. I'll give him a second, 100% clean slate second shot after the whole Jets situation because they never helped him out. He's got a clean slate going into Carolina. But if you mean to tell me that they've got DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Devontae Smith, plus Christian McCaffrey, if you can't succeed with those weapons, you don't belong in this league. And then number 9, guy we mentioned just a minute ago, Micah Parsons going to the Denver Broncos there. I'm sure they would have. I'm kind of surprised they passed up on Justin Fields here, in all honesty. I'm kind of surprised Kiper.
I mean, they don't seem too desperate for a quarterback after that trade package they offered for Stafford.
True.
Did you see that?
I saw that. Wow. True. But Drew Lock, in my opinion, is not a good quarterback or even a decent quarterback. I think he straight up sucks. But then number 10, to kind of round out the top 10 here, it has the New England, Kiper has the New England Patriots trading up with Dallas to grab Justin Fields. So that's where Justin Fields goes. And then you've got the Giants taking Jalen Waddle at number 11. Are you happy with this? I mean, I'm assuming you are because that's the guy that we both liked. Like, is there anything like coulda, woulda, shoulda type situation here?
Yeah, what we could have done is do what Pro Football Focus said that was going to happen and trade out of that, to trade the 7th pick to the Minnesota Vikings for their 14th, as well as their 2nd and 3rd overall picks, as well as the 7th round pick next year. And at 14, land Ja'Marr Chase, and then at 41, get Devontae Smith. I think that would be better. But
yeah, that guy was drunk when he did that. Also, why would the Vikings want to trade up from 14 to 7? I don't quite understand that.
I don't quite understand that
the
either.
Vikings would want, and how would you ever get Devontae
draft.
Smith in the 2nd round unless somebody planted like cocaine in his locker?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how Ja'Marr Chase would be at 14. I don't understand how Devontae Smith would be at 41.
No.
I don't understand what would be there for the Vikings at number 7.
Exactly. Like, what? None of this makes any sense. The Vikings haven't even, at least from what I've seen, haven't even been brought up as a team that could potentially want to trade into that number 7 spot. So that guy may be the one that's got cocaine in his locker. And I'm just joking. By the way, I don't want to get yelled at, but I'm just joking.
The Lions got an A in this mock draft.
I'm sure they did. Everybody else should get an F.
Devontae Smith at 41 was an A+ pick.
I don't think you can argue anything but.
It's actually off the grading scale is what that pick would be. But I would be happy with this draft. I'd be pretty happy leaving the draft with Ja'Marr Chase in the 1st round.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. Like you mentioned, I think 7 is just a little bit too early for a guy like Micah Parsons. I even think number 9 is a little bit too early for a guy like Micah Parsons, frankly. If I were the Lions, I'd be trading back into, the early double digits to try. Then I would be looking at Micah Parsons at that point. Maybe 15 with New England. That's probably a spot you could probably end up still landing Micah Parsons, especially with the running quarterbacks that are going to go in this draft early on in this draft, maybe even up to 5 in the top 10, which is a ridiculous number. So there's a good chance that you got really high-end talent that ends up dropping into those teens, which is where the Lions could cash in. But if they do stand pat and Ja'Marr Chase on the board and they take him, I'll be ecstatic. If they don't take him and take somebody else, I'll probably be pretty pissed. I'm not going to lie. Because how could you pass up on a talent like Ja'Marr Chase and take anything else?
Devontae Smith.
I mean, Would I be mad about Devontae Smith? No. Would I be disappointed that we took probably the second best wide receiver in this draft? Yeah.
I've been trying to talk my dad off the ledge with Jalen Waddle. He wants Waddle over both of them.
So I saw a comparison today. Well, okay, so I saw a comparison today, and what scouts are projecting him to be is Tyreek Hill, which ain't that bad. A lot of scouts.
Which receiver are you talking about right now?
Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle. Got
a
it.
lot of scouts are projecting him to be, they're comparing him to Tyreek Hill, which skill set makes sense. That's a lofty goal.
It is.
And I'm just curious if he possesses that kind of speed to match with Tyreek Hill. But, I mean, it's obviously a really high ceiling and a really high grade to, really, high regard. He's highly regarded, obviously, if you're being compared to the names like that. So, is he the worst? I mean, he was at one point regarded as the number one wide receiver in this draft. So there obviously is something to be said there. And the only reason he'd fell is not because of his play, because he got injured. That's why he fell. But either way, moving on into the second round of this mock. Let's see. Moving on down. So let's just start off the second round here. The Jaguars taking Kadarius Toney from Florida, the wide receiver. Jets taking Travis. I can never get this guy's name pronunciation right, but Etienne, the running back from Clemson.
I always say Etienne.
Etienne, all right. All right, Etienne, running back from Clemson, which I actually like that one. Just sucks he's going to the Jets. Granted, who knows what they'll be with the new quarterback, but Gregory Rousseau, defensive end from Miami, going to the Falcons. Dolphins grabbing Javonte Williams, running back from North Carolina. Eagles getting Nick Bolton, inside linebacker from Missouri. His parents should have named him Michael. Bengals taking Diami Brown, wide receiver from North Carolina. Panthers taking Landon Dickerson, this interior offensive lineman from Alabama. Broncos taking Calvin Joseph, cornerback from Kentucky. And then at 41, and this is one that kind of raised a lot of eyebrows, but Lions taking Malcolm Koonce, the defensive end / the pass rusher, essentially defensive end outside linebacker from Buffalo. And the reasoning he gives, Trey Flowers really hasn't lived up to his price tag. Lions pass rush is disappointed. Koonce is a natural pass rusher who had 14 sacks over the past 2 seasons. Great length, can be disruptive as a situational edge defender. He's being underrated in the late lead up to this draft, but I love his tape. Now, give you a little bit of other perspectives on this edge rusher. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein gives him a 4th round grade, labeling him a good backup who could become a starter. PFF slots him in as player 161 on their draft board, projecting him to be limited to a role as a designated pass rusher due to his struggles against the run. The Draft Network lists him as the 166th best player in the draft and says his ideal role is developmental edge rusher or 3-4 outside linebacker. The Athletics' Dane Brugler, and I'm getting all these from PrideOfDetroit.com.
Yep.
But Dane Brugler assigned him a 7th round grade in his draft guide, labeling him as a tweener that could be a sub-package rusher. So by the sounds of it, this guy is a pure pass rusher that's likely only going to be used in passing downs because of his inefficiencies or ineffectiveness elsewhere. His deficiencies, I should say, elsewhere. What are your thoughts on that pick?
So it goes to the history of the Lions loving to take these sleeper guys who...
It just screams Jelani Tavai.
Exactly. Like, I'm not going to act like I've watched a bunch of tape on Malcolm Koonce. I've never heard the name until you just mentioned it. But
I don't think anybody, in their right mind is watching Buffalo football. Let me just start with that.
Is it a position in need? Yeah. But I'm starting to wonder, is Mel Kiper said in his draft he's being underrated in the lead up to the NFL draft. Underrated by, is he the only one that thinks that? Because from the rundown he just gave me, it seems like across the board everyone has him well below the 2nd round. So just judging by that, I guess I'm not too high on it, even though I like the position they're gunning for in the 2nd round. maybe the guy that goes right after him is a better pick, and that guy would be. And I just exited the draft. Good job, Andrew.
Way to go.
That guy would be what's his face, Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma. If I remember.
I mean,
correctly.
there's a few names on here that are in the same position as Kiper has them taken here. In Ronnie Perkins, in Joe Tyron, defensive end from Washington, that goes a few picks later to the Cowboys. Moving even further a little bit down the draft, we've got, I saw another one. Where'd he go? Joseph Osai, the same position from Texas, the linebacker, defensive end, kind of guy that can stand up and on, down on the ground as a pass rusher. There's another one. So there's a few names from some bigger, more well-established football programs that play tougher schedules than Buffalo that you could argue the Lions should be taking in that spot. Again, I completely agree. I like going after the need, but I just don't know if the player is the guy we really need because, again, if he is going to be any good, how long is it going to take? One.
Yeah.
Two, how good is he actually? What's his actual potential? Do we really even have a good idea of that, considering he played against Buffalo or played on Buffalo? He didn't play for Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, the big name schools out there. He played for Buffalo. So and also he's very limited in what he can do. His skill set's limited. He's only a pass rusher. He can't cover sideline to sideline. He struggles against the run. There's a lot of other draft experts and scouting experts out there that give him a grade that is not even a third round, but a fourth round or later prospect. So that kind of makes me wonder why the Lions would reach to grab this guy. And it does scream Jelani Tavai. It's got that written all over it.
Absolutely.
So what would you think about the Lions going a different route positionally in the second round here and going after
Asante Samuel Jr.?
That is the name I'm going to mention. Yes, a corner or a secondary position in the secondary in Tyson Campbell, the corner from Georgia, Eric Stokes, the other corner from Georgia, Asante Samuel Jr. Someone in the defensive backfield that could help out this team as well, or even going with the right tackle position and drafting in that regard because they do still need to shore up their offensive line. Maybe drafting a guy like Jalen Mayfield from Michigan or Samuel Cosme from Texas. I mean, there's names, Dylan Radins from North Dakota State. I mean, there's names that are out there at that position as well. That is a position of need also. So, I mean, would you rather them go with a corner or an offensive lineman over this pass rusher if that's what's on the board?
I'm going to be straight up with you. There's so many needs on this Lions team in general, not just the defense, that I am all aboard best player available every single round, no matter what.
What if it's a quarterback every round?
Well, that's the exception.
Or a wide receiver every round. This is a really deep wide receiver draft.
It is a deep wide receiver draft.
So that actually could potentially be likely.
But Eric Stokes is a guy you brought up that actually I definitely would not mind in the second round. He was extremely productive at Georgia. He was second team All SEC last year. He's one of the better cornerbacks that will probably be available where you're picking in that second round.
Is he better than his own teammate Tyson Campbell, who Mel Kiper has going above Eric Stokes?
Does Mel Kiper have Tyson Campbell available?
Yes.
For us?
Yes.
That's a good question. I might lean Tyson Campbell then.
So,
they're it's hard to tell because
it's hard.
I don't know if one's productivity led to the other's performance getting boosted.
Right,
or
and that's what worries me
about
about secondaries, really good secondaries in college, where there's two pro prospects at the corner positions for one of these schools, because is one clearly better than the other, but because he's so good, he made up for the deficiencies or boosted the other player up higher than he really is. That's what worries me about some of these schools. Would I like either one of them? Yes. So Mel Kiper openly says he's not as high on Stokes as some other scouts are out there, which is why he has him going to the Chargers a little bit later than Tyson Campbell. But he says he is a good player. He's blazing fast and he competes. So I honestly wouldn't mind either one of these guys. But do we go corner again, high in the draft? when we took one last year? That's the other question.
That's true. I admittedly not as well versed in who's available in the second round, but again, it's to me, it's best player. If a corner is the best player available, where you're picking, you go corner. Like just looking between Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes, one thing I'm digging up right now, one glaring weakness on Stokes is the fact that he can get exposed in the run game. Not seen as much of a glaring weakness for Tyson Campbell. And another thing I was hearing about Eric Stokes here is that a lot of his interceptions that seem to be more luck than actually reading the play.
Fair enough.
So some signs point to Tyson Campbell if you were looking between those two, to Campbell being the play there. But no, again, it's quarterback is obviously not my favorite position to draft in general because you can hit. I really do feel like you can hit on cornerback throughout the draft. We've seen our high cornerback picks come back to bite us in the ass time and time again. Darius Slay being the exception.
Tease Tabor.
Yep, Tease
Jeff
Tabor.
Okudah. So far.
We'll see. Jeff Okudah's already said how much of a difference it feels in that practice room with Dan Campbell instead of Matt Patricia. So hopefully
he's also got a really good defensive backs coach and a defensive coordinator there as well.
Yeah.
So
hopefully it's a plus for his development, but we'll see what happens.
I sure hope so because he was a real big disappointment last year. Now, speaking of Jeff Okudah, 97.1, the local sports radio station, I'm sure many of our listeners probably listen to them as well or have at some point. They posted a scenario for the Lions at number 7, taking a guy like Patrick Surtain and essentially having a do-over for last year's draft. How do you feel about that?
I don't hate it. It's splashy.
I don't love it because I don't like taking. Excuse me.
I just didn't think Pat Surtain would be there in the second round.
No, I'm talking at number 7.
Oh hell no! Oh, are you kidding me? I thought there was something about Pat Surtain dropping that I missed.
No,
and that
no. He's a
projected
top
to be there
15 prospect, no question. But
then absolutely not. No, I don't.
I don't love it, and the reason is I don't value cornerback as a top 10 pick in my mind. I still believe Jeff Okudah was the wrong pick last year, regardless of what he became. Frankly, I do. And I think I will always believe that just because I don't value defensive backs in particular in that way. You have to have a really good secondary to be successful in this league, yes, at least to achieve the ultimate prize. But I think you can build a good secondary other ways than spending a top 10 or top 5 pick on secondary assets. I think one way to make your secondary really good is by spending those top 10 and top 5 assets and grabbing pass rush, but because that can sure make up for a lot of deficiencies in your secondary. But either way, I would not like the Lions going Patrick Surtain and just basically making a do-over happen for last year's draft. But either way, it is something that probably will be there available for the Lions. I just personally would not be happy with it, especially if a guy like Jamar Chase is available. It's a passing league, not a pass defending league. So,
but But just going back to the second round, I'm just like looking at the names on the board here. Like there's a lot of linebacker options that I actually think probably be better than you taking a corner, even if it's Tyson Campbell or Eric Stokes. Like I just pulled up the so SI put out an article highlighting 3 players that the Lions could target in the second round, and I was just checking to see if Mel Kiper had any of them taken before our pick, and I don't think any of them were. But you have Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. I don't know much about him. Linebacker, 6'4", 260. But in 2020, he recorded 54 tackles, 7.5 for a loss, 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, a safety, and a fumble recovery.
I don't even think he has them in his top 2 rounds at all.
And then one guy I am familiar with is Jabril Cox out of LSU.
Mm-hmm.
He was insanely productive, really high motor guy, which you like at the linebacker position.
Oh, Zaven Collins he has going in the first round, number 28.
That's why I missed him. I was just looking at the second round.
And then, who was the other name you mentioned?
Jabril Cox out of LSU. That's the one name I'm actually familiar with. But Joe Marino of Draft Network said about him that Cox is an outstanding coverage linebacker that thrives in space. He is terrific in both man and zone coverage, making him an ideal matchup linebacker that can handle tight ends, running backs, and some slot receivers. He has terrific range, mobility, and his motor always runs hot. I mean, that's one guy saying all the right things about him, but I mean, he passed the eye test at LSU, so
he does.
And then,
I mean, that whole
another guy
defense
I'm not
passed
too
the eye
familiar
test,
with.
though.
Yeah. And a third guy, one I'm not too familiar with, Joseph Asai, who's an edge rusher and linebacker out of Texas, 6'4", 243. He does play more of a 3-4, which I'm actually not 100% certain what defensive scheme we're planning to roll out this year. But
I thought I heard it was going to be more of a 4-3 or a multiple at most. But Joseph Asai, he does have going 56 overall to the Seahawks, so he would be available for the Lions. Now, my question for you, how would you feel about the Lions doubling up at the wide receiver position, knowing we lost 2, then grabbing 2 early in the draft and going a guy like Rondale Moore in the second round here? Obviously Lions fans are familiar with Rondale Moore, considering he went to Purdue, saw him a lot. He burned a lot of he burned pretty much everyone in I believe his freshman year, might have been his sophomore year, and then last year he didn't exactly have as productive of a season, but either way, he's a name that people are going to look out for. How would you feel about the Lions going wide receiver in the top 2 rounds of the draft?
Again, it's not going to make me mad, especially with a guy like Rondale Moore. I actually really like him a lot. But the thing is, like I said before, we have so many needs to fill on this team that I don't know if we can just afford, at face value, you can afford to just take 2 wide receivers back-to-back in the first 2 rounds.
Fair enough, and I don't disagree with that at all.
Like, a wide receiver could actually very well be the best player available in the second round. I just don't know. Like, I'm already like stretching my rule a bit to actually to have convinced myself to go wide receiver in the first round. But
which I've been against that, as I mentioned, but as we see these trades start to come to fruition and pan out, it's becoming more and more likely the Lions could take a pass catcher at number 7, or if they're not trading out of it, which it's becoming more of a reality, and I'm starting to accept that reality, and I'm even starting to not hate the reality. I kind of like the reality because I know that the Lions need to fill heavy holes at the wide receiver position going into this season if they want to be anywhere competitive. And granted, I'm not expecting the Lions to be ultra competitive this season, so to speak, but either way, you got to get started building it somewhere, and that's a place they need to build on. So I wouldn't hate it at all. Now, if the Lions do trade out of number 7, do you think it happens prior to the drafts, or do you think that it doesn't happen until on draft day when we start to see the board shake out?
Draft day, because it's really going to depend on how the board shakes out because of the run on quarterbacks we're expecting to see early on. I fully expect if it were to happen, it happens draft day.
And I completely agree with you. I don't believe we will see Lions trade at all until draft day. And that's mainly based on how we see the draft board shake out, where we see the quarterbacks go. Is there 2 quarterbacks available at number 7 for the Lions? Does that make teams want to jump? Does it mean that they're more willing to stand pat? It's going to definitely end up hinge upon how the board shakes out after the first 6 picks, and probably after the first 4 picks in all reality, seeing what happens at number 4, what happens at number 5. But we'll have to see how things go to really get an idea of whether or not the Lions are going to trade out of that spot or even have an ability to. So it's a perfect segue, because speaking of trades, Chris Burke threw out basically 5 options that the Lions could do to move around in the draft. And it basically what this serves as is a way to gauge the value of that number 7 overall pick this year. So what I want to do is I want to go through the 5 options, and I just want to get your take, yay or nay, on the moves. So option number 1, he actually has us trading up to number 5 with Cincinnati. So the historical comp for that, so what the value would be there was we would trade. This is he compares it to 2012 draft where Jacksonville traded number 7 and 101 to Tampa for number 5. So assuming the price is right around there, what would you think about moving up to 5 and having potentially your pick of non-quarterback prospects if there is a run on quarterbacks in the first 4 picks? It's aggressive, and if that's what the asking price is, I don't hate it in all reality, because pick 101, I would rather get my pick of player at number 5 than take a chance, and give up a pick that's probably, I think that's a 4th round pick.
I think it's our 3rd round comp. It might be like a 3rd round comp pick.
It might be the 3rd round comp pick. I'd give that up in order to be sure I get my guy at number 5, whether it be Penei Sewell, or if you wanted to go Trey Lance, or if you wanted Jamar Chase and you didn't think he was going to fall to you, or Kyle Pitts. That basically guarantees you're going to get your guy that you want at number 5 there. And giving up a late 3rd or early 4th round pick to do it, if that is actually the asking price, it's been a while since, that 2012 draft was 9 years ago now. So, and with the value that's going to be there, I would think that the price would be a little bit higher. But if that's what the asking price is, yeah, I'd do that.
I think I agree with you. You're not giving up too much to jump to basically guarantee that you get the guy that you want. And like, I would have no problem staying at 7 because I feel like you have a good chance of winding up with one of Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase at 7. But if you can just have your pick of the litter at 5, I'll take that.
Yeah, especially if they're higher on one guy than another. If they're, say, Penei Sewell is a guy that they really like and he is the top guy on the draft board, so go get him. If that's what it's going to cost to go get him, do it. Make it happen.
So Chris Burke has a 2A and a 2B. I don't know why he put these both at 2, but he did. So 2A is to trade down to number 8 with Carolina. The historical comp for this is the 2014 draft where Minnesota traded 8 to Cleveland for number 9 and 145. So he's basically saying to move from 7 to 8, you're probably looking at netting a 4th round pick. He moved back one and net a 4th round pick.
It's really going to have to depend on what's available at number 7 for me to do this, because if of the prospects I like, if Jamar Chase is the wide receiver, like say Penei Sewell and Kyle Pitts are gone, because those are really the 3 guys I like for the Lions to take that I think that they will be able to get at number 7 are Penei Sewell, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase. Those are my top 3 guys, and I think from that it takes a step down into the next tier. So with that being said, it's really going to depend on what's available to me at number 8. Say both Pitts and Chase are available at number 7. Yeah, I'd do it then. I probably would to grab me my extra draft capital. So yeah, I probably would, but it is going to hinge upon what's available at number 7. If 2 of the prospects I like are there, sure. If not, no. I'm just going to take my pick.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, Carolina's not going to move up for a quarterback considering they just traded for Sam Darnold. So I think if they move up, it's probably going to be to take a guy like Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. So that's what makes me hesitant, because I'd rather have my pick of the 2. Right. I'd rather have Jamar Chase. So I'm a little hesitant on it, but again, it depends. It depends what the pot looks like. If I can, I guess I can side with you on this. If I can guarantee that I'm going to wind up with one of Pitts or Chase if I move back one and I still net an extra pick, I'd probably do it.
See, the thing is I'm not entirely sold that if both Pitts and Chase are available, that the Panthers would go after Chase. They'd go after Pitts. And if we value Chase higher than Pitts and they're still willing to trade up to go get Chase or to get Pitts, I'd probably do it at that point. So just kind of gauging what I would think the Panthers would do and who they would value, because at tight end, what do they have right now? Nothing. Yeah. So they probably would want to go up and grab a guy like Kyle Pitts to fill that hole in their offense. So it might be intriguing for the Lions, and it might be a solid option for the Lions to grab another draft piece and still get the guy they want one pick later.
So option 2B, trade with Denver, trade on to number 9. The historical comp is a 2001 draft where Seattle trades number 7 and 191 to the Niners for number 9, number 82, which would be a 3rd round pick, and 222, which sounds like that's, I think, a 6th round pick.
So the Lions got, you said the Lions got number 7, or no, they gave up number 7 and 191, so probably a 6th round pick.
Yeah, late 5th, early 6th.
So they're first, 5th, or late 1st, early 6th, and they got back number 9. And what was 82, the other pick?
A 3rd round pick, number 82. So let's say a 1st, a 3rd, and then let's just call it a 7th round pick.
Again, so this is going to be a situation where it's going to depend on what's available on the board, frankly. I mean, this is where the trade scenarios where you move back to go grab a guy like Micah Parsons start to come into play at that number 9 spot. I still think that's a little bit too early for him. But so are you willing to pass up on a guy like Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts to go get Micah Parsons and add a third-round pick, in return? I still lean taking Jamar Chase there.
Yeah, I don't do this one. If Denver's moving up, they're gonna have to give me more because now I'm taking myself out of contention for one of those elite guys. So they're gonna have to give me more than what the historical comp would be to make me move out of that.
What year did you say that comp's from?
2001.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
I think these are all in the in like 2000s. Like there's nothing from the 90s.
Okay.
Which I guess is good news.
Still, 2001 is basically 100 football years.
It's pushing it. Option 3. Now we're moving down to number 10 to Dallas. So if we move down to number 10, historical comp is 2008 draft where New England trades number 7 and 164 to New Orleans for 10 and 78. So they move down 3 spots. It looks like they net an early 3rd round pick. And they give up, I think, a 6th or late 5th in the process.
So a similar one to the Broncos. This is another one, though, where this essentially pulls you out of the race for an elite guy, and it's not a team that's going after a quarterback. The Broncos could be going after a quarterback trading up from 9 to 7, which then it may behoove you a little bit to move back because you may still get your guy. But this one, I don't think the Cowboys are going to be taking a quarterback. So this one is one where I'd say no, this one hurts you. Because, again, while Mike Parsons would probably still be there, it still takes you out of the running for one of the elite prospects. I'd probably just take my pick here.
Yeah, I think that's where this draft differs from where we're comping is at the spot that we're sitting at that very edge of where the elite prospects are. So, like, a 2 to 3 spot move down seems massive when you look at the draft board versus just looking at 7 to 10 on paper.
Right. Now, it's also, if it's, where I would be willing to do it with a team like maybe Denver because they probably are going to take a quarterback prospect, which, at least in our eyes, doesn't hurt the Lions in that regard. It helps them even because they can still get their guy. But a team like Dallas is not going to be taking a quarterback prospect, or at least likely not going to be taking a quarterback prospect unless Jerry Jones is off his rocker again. That right there hurts the Lions and doesn't make much sense because that essentially gives the Cowboys the opportunity to take what the Lions need. And I don't like that idea.
Nope, not at all. All right, option number 4. We take it a little bit more of a jump here. Trading with New England, number 15. We trade down to number 15. This historical comp is a 2016 draft. Cleveland trades number 7 and 176 to Tennessee for 15-76, which would be a
early third.
I think a comp. Early third. Something there's comps in a second. I don't know why I was saying that. Early third plus a future second. I'd probably say, considering you're going from 7 instead of 8, maybe you can coax it to a late second. I don't know. But yeah, generally you're moving back 7 spots for, we'll call it a late second to early 3rd round pick plus a future second.
I do this one. And the reason this is that sweet spot where, okay, I'm going to get some, good value in return. I add draft capital from a future draft. I add a high draft pick in a, late second or early 3rd round.
You lose like a 6th rounder, or 5th rounder, sorry. Right,
which I'm okay with that. As long as I add capital high in this draft and I move back and I still get a guy I like probably in Micah Parsons, not guaranteed, but probably.
Yeah, you're rolling the dice. You
are, but it also opens the door to other prospects here like a Rashawn Slater at right tackle, or, this makes it a little bit more stomachable to grab a guy like a Patrick Surtain if he's there. So I don't hate this idea because, again, it adds draft capital. And it is really kind of the likelihood, the trade I'm more likely willing to take in order to move back to grab guys and move me out of that top spot to get one of the guys I really like to then go jump down into that second tier. So yeah, I'd be willing to do this because, again, this is one of those teams where I say, all right, they're going after a quarterback. That means that the board's going to shift more in my favor when I drop down.
Am I driving too hard a bargain if I say I want a future first to move down that far?
Yes, I don't think you're going to get that. Unless you said I want your first now and your first next year. nothing else, and maybe I give you my late fifth or something, sure, you might be able to make that happen, but I don't think you're getting a first, a second, and a first out of this one.
Option 5. Here's the final one. Trade down to number 19 with the Washington football team. Historical comp is the 2019 draft. Denver traded number 10 to Pittsburgh for number 20. And so Pittsburgh traded up 10 spots. And in return, they gave up a second and third round pick. Second this year, third this year, to move up from 20 to 10. In this case, we're talking 19 to 7.
I think you'd be able to
maybe you can coax like a future third out of them as well.
I think this is one where you'd be able to coax a future first out of. You're not necessarily getting first, second, third, and a first. I think you'd be able to get a first and maybe a fourth in a future draft, or maybe even if you're lucky, a third in a future draft. Because I do think Washington may be desperate. This could be where Washington goes like full on Mike Ditka with the New Orleans Saints, and I know I'm stealing that quote from an article I read earlier. I think it was from ESPN, and just trades all their draft picks to move up and grab a quarterback that they want. I think Washington's one of those teams crazy enough, and by that I mean Dan Snyder is crazy enough to make a move like that happen. So I think you could leverage Washington here, saying, "Look, you're moving up 12 spots to be able to have a chance at a quarterback here. I want a haul." And by that, I mean I want multiple firsts, and I want another high pick in a future draft, whether it be a second or a third. Give me a haul. If you're going to be willing to do that, I do that all day. Because, again, this is not a draft that I'm 100% on, because at least in the first round, because we don't know enough about these guys. Versus next year and the year after, I'm a little bit more sold on that. And if you tell me that we can stack up first-round picks next year or the year following to where we have 3 next year or 3 the year following, all right, now we're in the driver's seat. Big time. Yeah. So, I'd be willing to do this if I can squeeze a little bit more out and grab a second first-round pick out of them with this one.
I'm right there with you. I was already contemplating asking for a first-round pick to go down to 15. You better be damn sure I'm asking for a first-round pick to go down to 19. So, I'm right there with you. You got to give me a future first. My thought was a future first, like a pick swap this year for first-round picks, and we down to 19. A future first plus their third this year. That was my thought.
That's possible. You might be able to get that. You might have to give up your 5th or 6th round pick this year to make that happen, which I'd be willing to do that all day. Like, this is one where you're able to take advantage of a team that is desperate for a quarterback and in a really bad spot to get one. So, and that's what is extremely titillating about this trade scenario, because Washington, because they're a bad football team. They're not good. They've got a really good pass rush, but they're not a good football team, especially offensively. But they desperately need a quarterback. But because they won their division last year, it royally screwed them out of one this year. So they're going to be desperate for a quarterback and aggressive to go grab one. And that's where the Lions can just kind of dangle that number 7 pick in front of Dan Snyder's face until he jumps at it and gives you whatever you ask for. So, and I think that's the team that the Lions need to take advantage of 100%. Even dangle, say, oh, New England's offering me this, this, and this. What are you going to offer me? You better beat it.
Kind of like what you did with Stafford.
Exactly. You better beat it. And I can tell you right now, I really do think Dan Snyder and Washington would be willing to beat it in order for them to get a quarterback. I 100% believe that. That's my favorite trade scenario right there. Outside of them moving up to 5, that's my favorite one.
Oh, interesting. I thought you were going to be more leaning towards just moving down one spot, still getting your guy and just getting a free pick, basically.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but what did you add? What did you add there? You added a 4th round pick.
I agree with you. I think that is my favorite trade scenario, because that gives you the biggest haul. You're probably not going to get Micah Parsons at that point, but you get a future first, and basically the potential of having 3 first-round picks next year.
Right.
Give it to me.
And you have so many holes in this team that whoever you take at 19 is going to be filling a spot. Let's be real.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, let's go ahead and move on into our final topic of the night. Should be just a quick one. And we've talked about this in the past about who you have the most confidence in terms of GMs in rebuilding these franchises in the city. And I wanted to kind of gauge it based on what we saw from the deadlines and what we've seen early season from the Tigers and how they've done. Obviously, we don't really have anything to say about the Lions outside of a couple free agent signings, maybe. I don't know. But so looking at it now, with the Pistons deadline having gone, where we traded away DeLon Wright, and nothing else. Looking at the draft picks we've seen where Sadiq Bey has really shown some flashes that, man, this dude can score and play some defense, but then there's nights where he just straight up disappears. Isaiah Stewart looks like a straight up dog, and I love it. But he may not be the most flashy player out there, the most exciting, but he's fun. He's fun as hell to watch, man.
Sure is entertaining.
And then you look at Killian Hayes, who we really haven't gotten to see, and then obviously the trade deadline, and then you go over to the Wings with Stevie Y, where he made a boatload of moves at the deadline, trading John Merrill, trading Brian Lashoff, trading, oh God, who else did he trade? A ton of names. But he also obviously made the big trade at near the gun of the deadline by trading away Anthony Mantha, a guy who he re-signed to a long-term deal in the offseason, a big one. Trading away Anthony Mantha to the Capitals in order to bring in Jakub Vrana, 25-year-old winger from Washington. Richard Panik, another winger, but he's 30. And then
don't panic though. He still plays like he's 28.
A first-round pick in this year's draft and a second in next year's draft. Obviously, he got a haul. Granted, Vrana is a restricted free agent at the end of the season, so there is that to factor in. But looking at, and then you have the Tigers start where we finally got a glimpse of a potential future last night with Casey Mize throwing 7 shutout innings in a win over Houston, which was great to see. But that's really all we've gotten to see in terms of the future of this franchise so far this year. It's been pretty abysmal otherwise. Outside of Akil Baddoo. That's been a fun story.
Yeah, that's been a fun story.
But does what has kind of transpired in the last few weeks give you any more confidence as a changer mindset on who is the GM to really put your faith in this town? Who's going to get back to winning first?
Well, I'll start off by saying that since the last time we talked about the GMs on the show, I feel like my opinion of GMs in this town has gone nothing but up, specifically talking about Troy Weaver, Brad Holmes, Stevie Y. I've rarely had a bad thing to say about anything that has gone on in those front offices. Like the worst I was able to talk about was like, yeah, I wish we could have gotten rid of Wayne Ellington for a second-round pick. Like, at the end of the day, it's still just like it's still being a bit nitpicky because we still got a really good haul for DeLon Wright at that time, and I like the trade we did for Steve Mikhailuk. So I'm loving what I'm seeing from Troy Weaver, Brad Holmes. I love what we got from Matthew Stafford.
He's instilling some confidence in me for sure,
him. He's done nothing to make me doubt him yet, and just the culture that's being instilled already in both those franchises, in both Detroit, the Lions, and the Pistons. I mean, a lot of that's on coaching too, but it's making me have confidence in the front office, in coaching. In terms of the Wings, I mean, I was like everyone else in the city. I was really happy the day we hired Stevie Y, and the haul that we got from Mantha just makes me even happier about that. Anytime you get that much or that quality of draft capital.
It will be a late first-round pick, and it will be a late pick, but it's still draft capital.
Still
and then
first.
If you manage to, it is, and if you manage to re-sign Jakub Vrana as well and bring him back here, that's a guy who's going to be put into this lineup and be effective. I liked what he did with Washington, and I think he can be a piece that really contributes for this roster for years to come if they do bring him back.
Now, Al Avila is the guy he's got a long way to go to convince me because I've been off the Al Avila train for a while now, and I don't follow the Tigers as close as you do, so maybe you might be able to turn me around on this on the podcast. But right now, I don't have the level of confidence in Al Avila that I do in the other 3 GMs in the city.
It's funny that you're the one wearing the Tigers hat right now, and I'm not wearing anything Tigers. But I'll be honest with you, with Al Avila, I really don't have much to believe in with him. Sure, I like some of the prospects he's brought in, but we have yet to see what they can become. Tarek Skubal in his start so far has kind of been very middling at best to mediocre. Casey Mize had a really good outing in his last game, but I mean, there's been a lot to not get excited about. We haven't seen Riley Green. We haven't seen Spencer Torkelson. And when we did see them in spring training, they struggled, and the trades he made. And I want to give credit to a caller from 97.1 earlier this week who said, Al Avila has yet to make a trade that has made us go, wow. unlike Stevie Y, who made a trade that made us go, whoa, wow, I can't believe he did this, Avila hasn't. He really hasn't made a trade that has surprised us or made us say, hey, we got a really good haul there, because the hauls he has gotten for his trades have not panned out. What he got for JV did not pan out. What he got for JD Martinez did not pan out. Like, it's been very disappointing, and now you're basically hoping and praying that these prospects they've gotten in the draft between Torkelson, Green, and Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, guys like that, Matt Manning, you hope that these guys are extremely good. Not even just good, but tops at their position in the game. And that's a lot to ask for a lot of these young kids. So Al Avila really hasn't instilled much confidence there for me to really be excited. Troy Weaver, I'd like to make a motion for this show in particular to change his name to Trade Weaver.
Hey.
Because the dude manages to find a way to make a trade seemingly
Trader Troy,
anytime.
the successor of Trader Jack.
Pretty much. He finds a way to make a trade even when you don't think there's one there. Granted, he did sort of disappoint at the deadline, but either way, he still made a deal happen and got more for a guy than we thought we were going to. So that was
he got more for his fee than I thought we were going to. He got more for DeLon Wright than I thought we were going to. So
he seems to know what he's doing. I'm just curious to see what it's going to pan out with. How are these draft assets going to, what are we getting there? And
it's just sometimes it's okay to just settle for a second round pick and get a guy off the roster.
Right. Brad Holmes, again, albeit in short work, has done a lot to instill some confidence as well. The Matt Stafford trade really... There's a trade. Again, another trade that makes you just say, wow. Granted, the Pistons really haven't had that yet, but I don't think they've had the assets to entice the team to make that happen. So, I won't guard that. I won't count that against
the wow moment
Troy
was draft day. Was draft day for me with Troy Weaver.
Right. That pretty much.
When you traded it back into the first round twice, I was like, wow.
All right. You know what? You're right. Those were the wild trades. And Brad Holmes made the wild trade, trading Matthew Stafford, bringing in multiple first-round picks for him, bringing in Jared Goff as well. And then, obviously, you've got Stevie Y, who made the big wild trade, and that's what he's known for. He's, he goes into Tampa Bay, and he just buys out Martin St. Louis. He doesn't care who you are. He doesn't care what you've done for this city, how loyal the team has been to you, how loyal you've been to the fan base. He will get rid of you. He is not afraid to. He what?
I said cue Troy Weaver.
Yeah. He's not afraid to get rid of you, doesn't care who you are, what you've done for the city. He will trade you, he will cut you. If you are not a part of his vision for the future of this franchise, he's going to make a change. And that's exactly what he did with Anthony Mantha. He said he hadn't seen enough from Mantha in his development and said, all right, I'm going to trade you. I'm going to bring in somebody who I think can be a part of the future, and I'm going to get some draft capital for you as well. And in my opinion, I think the trade was very lopsided in the Wings' favor. I think Mantha will be a good player for the Capitals. It's the best, obviously the best talent he's gotten to play with, and I think he'll flourish there. But what you got in return was big in my mind. It really was, especially if you can bring Jakub Vrana back and turn him into a piece that's on this, maybe a second line winger. If you can turn him into that, that's awesome. So I'm excited and have a lot more confidence in at least 3 of the GMs in this town than I did a month ago.
It's amazing how things can, because if you think of how quickly things can change, because if you think about when we were doing the show this time last year, we were pretty down in the dumps about every team not named the Red Wings. Like, at least we have Stevie Y.
I so badly. Go ahead.
These two GMs, we already had Stevie Y, but at least the 2 new GMs have made the changes they've made within the organization. It's insane to watch how quickly things have turned around.
I so badly crave a winning franchise in the city again, because thinking about it, all my life almost we've had at least one winner in this town. We had the Wings throughout the 90s. We won cups. We had the Wings in the early 2000s. We had the Pistons in the early 2000s who were competing for championships year in and year out, pretty much up until about 2008, 2009. And then you still had the Wings competing and winning cups at that point. And we had the Tigers from like 2006 to 2014, pretty much, kind of sort of 2013, really, where they went to multiple World Series. The Lions, we made the playoffs a few times. But like, I so badly crave a winning franchise in this town once again. And we haven't gotten it in a long time. It feels like, and it's probably not been as long as it feels, but it certainly feels like it's been decades. And I so badly want to see a winning team, and to see the front offices and the organizations doing something that actually puts a path, a mindset into the forefront, and a path that is obvious. It's encouraging, and it makes me feel like we're going to actually see a winner, before I turn 40.
Yeah.
So, but anyways,
let's be optimistic.
Right. It's tough to do in this town, let me tell you. But
yeah.
Anything else to add before we close out?
No.
Alrighty, that is going to call it for this week, guys. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. Well, Andrew, thank you for joining me, and happy birthday again. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
See you guys later. Have a good one. Enjoy your week and weekend. Peace out.
Peace.